The truth doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it kicks the door off the hinges, shatters the windows, and drags everyone out into the cold, blinding light of day to see exactly who is who. We live in a reality where the majority of the population is deeply committed to a script they did not write, playing roles they do not understand, desperate for a round of applause from an audience that does not even care about them. Most people do not actually hate intelligence, authenticity, or spiritual power. They hate what your intelligence, your authenticity, and your spiritual power make them feel about their own empty lives. They hate the fact that your very existence forces them to look into the mirror and witness the desolate wasteland of their own unhealed trauma and performative existence. I am speaking directly to you, the chosen ones. You are navigating an incredibly profound, often deeply isolating season of spiritual awakening. You have been pulled away from the crowd. You have been walking through the fire, entirely alone, doing the agonizing internal work that most human beings spend their entire lifetimes running away from. Because of this isolation, you have become a magnet for insecure, toxic, highly performative individuals who are desperately trying to mimic your light or violently tear it down. They look at your quiet nature, your lack of retaliation, and your withdrawal from the petty dramas of the world, and they mistake your peace for weakness. They assume that because you are standing by yourself, you are entirely unprotected. But they are about to learn a terrifying lesson about the spiritual mechanics of this universe. You see, they mistook your silence for surrender. They mistook your distance for vulnerability. But the overarching reality of your current situation is that someone, be it the divine forces of the universe, spiritual guardians, or fiercely loyal, unexpected earthly allies, is absolutely ready to put hands on anyone who messes with you. The people who are trying to compete with you, the ones who secretly melted down over your success and are plotting your downfall, have unknowingly triggered a defense system they cannot even begin to comprehend. Let us get into it. Let us break down exactly why their attempts to destroy you are unleashing an overwhelming force of protection on your behalf, and why they are completely unequipped to handle the consequences of their own toxic actions. Before we dive into the deep architecture of this dynamic, I need you to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share the video with someone who needs the reminder. Number 1. They dangerously miscalculated the architecture of your isolation, mistaking your sacred quarantine for an unprotected vulnerability. When highly insecure, predatory individuals look at the world, they view it strictly through the lens of power dynamics, numbers, and pack mentality. They need an entourage. They need a chorus of validating voices to constantly reassure them that they matter, because without external validation, their internal reality collapses into an absolute void. So, when they zeroed in on you, they saw someone standing alone. They analyzed your quietness, your withdrawal from social superficiality, and your refusal to engage in the endless noise of the crowd, and their predatory instincts misfired. They assumed that because you did not have a loud, aggressive clique behind you, you were an easy target. But your isolation was never a sign of abandonment. It was a sacred quarantine designed to purify your energy. You are stacking heavy fired bricks on solid ground in the absolute dark, building an unshakable fortress of internal alignment, while they are frantically stacking cards on a windy table, praying the breeze does not expose them. The deep psychology of their attack stems from a profound terror of their own solitude. For them, being alone means being defenseless. They projected this terror onto you, entirely failing to realize that your isolation was orchestrated by a higher power to clear the battlefield. They stepped into your silent valley, thinking they had cornered a solitary victim, only to realize far too late that the surrounding mountains are lined with unseen archers waiting for the signal to strike. They cannot fathom a reality where a person's defense comes from their internal spiritual alignment, rather than loud, boastful external alliances. Watching them try to bully you is like watching a child pick a fight with a dormant volcano. It is frantic, it is severely misinformed, and from the outside, it looks incredibly tragic because they have no idea of the magnitude of the spiritual backing they just provoked. They rely entirely on a script where the loudest person wins, and your refusal to read those lines breaks their fragile ego. Do not underestimate the absolute absurdity of their position. They see the calm, but not the resilience that forged it. They see your stillness, but cannot perceive the massive spiritual jurisdiction that enforces it. When they push against you, they are not meeting your physical resistance. They are colliding headfirst with an energetic wall that violently throws them backward. They begin to unravel because they expect you to play the victim, to weep, to beg for their approval. Instead, they hit an unyielding boundary. The consequences of their miscalculation manifest as sudden, chaotic disruptions in their own lives. They start dropping the plates they were spinning, losing the very validation they tried to steal from you. And as they frantically scramble to hold their performative mask in place, you simply remain rooted. You force them to confront the terrifying reality that your peace is guarded by forces they can neither manipulate nor escape. Number 2. You force people to confront the intelligence, authenticity, and spiritual integrity they willingly abandoned for cheap applause. The moment you walk into a room, your presence acts as an uncompromising mirror. You carry a frequency of truth that violently disrupts the comfortable, low-vibrational illusions they have built their entire lives around. They operate on a borrowed, insecure, performative facade. They have spent years compromising their morals, diluting their personalities, and shape-shifting to fit into whatever mold will grant them the most immediate validation. In stark contrast, your internal architecture is authentic, hard-earned, and unapologetically grounded. You have bled for your alignment. You have sat in the dark and confronted your demons, whereas they have spent their entire existence running from theirs. When they look at you, they do not just see a competitor. They see the ghost of their own abandoned potential. They see the strength they were too cowardly to cultivate. The deep psychology of their hatred is rooted in a massive, unhealed fear of stagnation and a complete loss of control. They desperately need the environment to validate their fake persona, and your refusal to applaud their performance feels like a direct threat to their survival. Because their ego is paper-thin, they cannot tolerate the cognitive dissonance of your authentic power. They must attempt to drag you down to their level because elevating to yours requires a level of shadow work they are entirely unwilling to endure. They try to belittle your intelligence or mock your spiritual discipline, acting like someone wearing gaudy, fake jewelry they cannot afford, trying to flex on someone who owns the entire gold mine. They strut around with this desperate, loud arrogance, hoping the noise will distract everyone from the fact that they are spiritually bankrupt. But the universe does not reward synthetic energy. Watching this dynamic unfold is profoundly tragic. They are exhausting their life force trying to convince the world that they are superior, while you are effortlessly elevating without saying a word. They look incredibly goofy, frantically whispering behind your back, trying to assemble a coalition of haters just to validate their own insecurity. But because someone is ready to put hands on anyone who messes with you, their gossip always backfires. The people they try to manipulate end up seeing the raw desperation in their eyes. The mask slips, the performance falters, and they are left standing in the spotlight of their own inadequacy. They see your confidence but not the internal battles. They see your grace but not the fires that refined it. They are fighting an invisible war against their own profound mediocrity, and every time they try to strike you, they only succeed in punishing themselves. Number 3. The absolute boomerang effect of their unhealed toxicity is triggering an immediate, violent spiritual return to sender. Toxic individuals operate under the delusion that they can export their internal chaos without suffering any consequences. They are accustomed to dealing with people who lack boundaries, where their venom can easily seep into a victim's bloodstream, allowing them to feel a momentary sadistic sense of power. But the chosen one's energy field is hermetically sealed. You operate in a state of surrendered peace, rooted deeply in your divine purpose. You have done the grueling work of internal alchemy, transforming your pain into power. Conversely, they operate on malice, jealousy, and a frantic, erratic energy that requires constant external projection. They are essentially psychological vomiting machines, completely unable to digest their own shame and failures, desperately looking for a scapegoat to carry the immense weight of their self-hatred. Psychologically, they are terrified of accountability. They rely on a script that allows them to play the victim while actively holding the knife. When they decide to target you, they fully expect you to absorb their darkness. But your spiritual protection acts as an unyielding mirror. When they hurl their toxicity, it does not penetrate. It hits your energetic armor and violently ricochets back onto them with doubled velocity. This creates an experience of extreme psychological suffocation for the attacker. They are suddenly forced to swallow their own poison. It is exactly like someone trying to poison a pure rushing river, only to suddenly realize they live downstream and have to drink the very water they contaminated. It is a fatal miscalculation of spiritual physics. They launch an attack, and suddenly their own finances dry up, their own relationships turn sour, and their own mental health plummets. Elaborating on this reveals the sheer absurdity of their position. They lack the self-awareness to connect their malicious actions toward you with the divine retribution they are currently experiencing. They look utterly goofy, complaining about how unfair life is, completely unaware that the universe is just handing them the exact receipt for the energy they tried to spend on your destruction. You see the calm of your own reality, but you do not see the frantic, screaming internal battles they are fighting just to keep their heads above water. They keep throwing venom at the mirror, wondering why they are the only ones getting sick. The forces protecting you do not even need to mount an active defense. The sheer raw voltage of your authenticity violently shocks their nervous system the moment they try to interfere. They are learning the hard way that the universe defends its chosen with absolute prejudice. Number 4. The sheer paralyzing terror they experience when they realize they have entirely lost control over your narrative. Performative, insecure people survive by acting as the unsolicited directors of everyone else's reality. They need to control how you are perceived by others because their entire fragile power structure relies on manipulating public opinion. When you first stepped into your power and alignment, they immediately recognized the threat and tried to rewrite your story. They painted you as the villain, the unstable one, the difficult outcast. They built an entire psychological cage out of rumors and expected you to sit quietly inside it, shrinking yourself to make their lies appear true. But your authentic alignment simply cannot be contained by their flimsy, borrowed narratives. You operate from a core of unshakable truth, while their entire existence depends on controlling a constantly shifting illusion. Their deep psychological fear is rooted in a total loss of control. When they can no longer dictate how the world views you, their fragile ego shatters because it proves they are not the gods of their little toxic universe. They behave exactly like a desperate, sweating director yelling, "Cut!" on a stage where they no longer own the script and where the actors have completely stopped listening to them. You absolutely refuse to read from the teleprompter they provided. This sends them into a state of frantic, erratic overcompensation. They start talking about you louder, trying to convince anyone who will listen that you are exactly who they claim you are. But because they are vibrating at such a low, desperate frequency, their performance reeks of panic. They are trying to stack cards in a hurricane, completely oblivious to the fact that the storm was generated by their own lies. The tragedy of this situation is profound. As they furiously try to control the narrative, the heavy hands of your unseen protection begin to strip the microphone out of their grip. The people around them, who once blindly believed the gossip, suddenly start noticing the glaring inconsistencies in their stories. The silent observers begin to see the undeniable grace in your silence, directly contrasting the unhinged obsession in your attacker's voice. They look absolutely pathetic from the outside. They are out here swinging violently at the air, exhausting their own life force, desperately trying to tarnish a reputation that the universe itself is actively polishing. They realize they have entirely lost the plot, and they are forced to stand on stage in complete deafening silence, entirely exposed as the frauds they have always been. Number 5. Their tragic, exhausting attempts to reverse engineer your divine blueprint through frantic mimicry. There is a deeply unsettling phenomenon that occurs when insecure individuals target a chosen one. They do not just want to destroy you, they simultaneously want to become you. They are mesmerized by the way you walk through the world. They intensely covet your unbothered peace, your natural magnetism, and your effortless authority. So they begin to mimic your mannerisms, steal your vocabulary, adopt your aesthetics, and copy your philosophies. But here is the stark contrast. Your power does not come from what you wear or how you speak. It comes from the grueling, agonizing internal fires you have survived. You earned your internal architecture through tears, isolation, and brutal shadow work. Their mimicry, however, is nothing more than a cheap, plastic filter slapped haphazardly over a chaotic, deeply unhealed reality. The deep psychology here is rooted in a total lack of internal substance. They suffer from empty vessel syndrome. They believe that if they put on your external mask, they will magically inherit your internal peace and universal favor. They rely on a script that says you can fake it until you make it, completely ignoring the fact that spiritual anointing cannot be forged. It is the absolute equivalent of someone wearing a highly decorated pilot's uniform, sitting in the cockpit, and aggressively pushing buttons while having absolutely no earthly idea how to actually fly the plane. They are terrified of the hard work required for genuine evolution, so they attempt to plagiarize your soul. But the universe does not protect the costume, it protects the core. When they cross the line and try to attack the very person they are mimicking, the spiritual backlash is ferocious. The unseen defense mechanisms surrounding you activate, and the imitator is exposed in all their fraudulent glory. From the outside, their sudden rebranding looks incredibly goofy, frantic, and forced. Everyone with an ounce of discernment can feel the jagged, anxious energy radiating beneath their love and light facade. While they are exhausting themselves, trying to maintain this heavy costume of peace, the universe continues to apply pressure to their actual reality, forcing their mask to slip repeatedly. They cannot fake the spiritual weight required to carry the anointing you possess, and watching them try is a tragic comedy. They are left standing naked in the terrifying spotlight of their own inadequacy, realizing they can copy your moves, but they can never steal your magic. Number 6. Your unrelenting silence has become the ultimate, devastating psychological weapon against their chaotic noise. Performative people require constant noise, gossip, drama, and external chatter to distract themselves from the agonizing emptiness inside their own minds. They function like radios permanently stuck on static, turning up the volume of their chaotic lives to drown out the silence of their unhealed trauma. You, on the other hand, sit in a profound, terrifying stillness. Your authentic alignment allows you to be completely at peace with your own thoughts. When they attack you, spread rumors, or try to provoke a reaction, your silence is not a sign of submission. It is a manifestation of supreme, untouchable power. You operate in a realm of internal certainty, while they are drowning in a sea of external desperation. Psychologically, your lack of response forces them into a corner they absolutely despise. It forces them to sit with their own demons. They desperately want you to react, to scream, to defend yourself, because your reaction would validate their aggression and give them control over your emotional state. They need you to break character so they can feel sane. But when you apply total, absolute, dead-air silence, you are cutting off their oxygen supply. You are not just ignoring them, you are fundamentally rejecting their reality. It triggers their deepest, most primal fear, the fear of being inherently worthless and unnoticeable. They are putting on the performance of a lifetime, dancing frantically like a court jester trying to draw the king's eye, and you are staring right past them at the horizon, completely unamused. This dynamic is exactly like someone screaming at the top of their lungs into a heavily padded, soundproof room. They are exerting maximum energy, straining their vocal cords, turning red in the face, and absolutely nothing is bouncing back to them. The silence is deafening, and it forces them to hear the echo of their own madness. The spiritual protection around you acts as that soundproof glass. Because you will not feed them, their own internal toxicity begins to eat them alive from the inside out. They become increasingly erratic, posting highly targeted subliminal messages, making louder and more obnoxious attempts to be seen, all while looking like complete fools to anyone with an ounce of discernment. They see your calm, but they cannot fathom the lethal precision of your silence, which is actively dismantling their sanity brick by brick. Number 7. The humiliating exposure of their performative courage and the revelation of their absolute, fundamental cowardice. The people trying to mess with you only act tough when they believe they have an overwhelming advantage. They rely on clicks, flying monkeys, and sheer numbers to feel brave. They are bullies who thrive in echo chambers, mistaking the cheering of their sycophants for actual strength. But your courage is not performative. It is a silent, enduring resilience forged in the fires of isolation. You have faced your own darkest shadows and survived, meaning there is absolutely nothing they can do to you that you have not already conquered within yourself. You operate from a place of fearless authenticity, whereas their bravado is a highly constructed mask designed to hide a trembling, insecure inner child. Psychologically, these individuals are deeply cowardly at their core. Their aggression is merely a smokescreen for their profound fragility. They strut around like someone wearing expensive jewelry they secretly went into massive debt to buy, flaunting a borrowed, flashy confidence that comes with a massive hidden spiritual deficit. Meanwhile, you walk in the quiet, unassuming wealth of absolute self-mastery. When the spiritual heavyweights step in to defend you, when situations miraculously flip in your favor, or when their malicious plots are instantly brought to the light, their artificial courage completely evaporates. They hit an unyielding, energetic wall, and their ego shatters upon impact because they realize they picked a fight with an opponent who is actively guarded by the divine. The sheer embarrassment of their sudden backtrack is goofy beyond words. It is the metaphorical equivalent of a vicious dog barking fiercely from behind a locked fence, suddenly whining, tucking its tail, and scrambling backward the exact second the gate swings wide open. Suddenly, they want to play nice. Suddenly, they claim it was all a misunderstanding. Suddenly, they act like they never meant any harm. But the universe does not accept their fake apologies. Your protection strips them of their audience and forces them to stand naked in their cowardice. They are profoundly humiliated by their inability to back up the toxic energy they so proudly projected when they thought you were defenseless. You force them to realize that their entire personality is a bluff, and the universe has finally called it. Number 8. The abrupt and aggressive dismantling of their toxic alliances, leaving them completely isolated in their malice. Toxic, insecure individuals can never stand alone. They survive by assembling a legion of enablers, co-conspirators, and easily manipulated followers. They build these alliances not on genuine love, loyalty, or mutual respect, but on trauma bonding, shared hatred, and the mutual desire to bring down anyone who threatens their fragile ecosystem. They confidently gathered a group of people to isolate, mock, or sabotage you, fully expecting their numbers to overwhelm your singular light. But your support system is not based on earthly numbers. It is built on divine alignment, ancestral protection, and uncompromising spiritual integrity. The deep psychology here is that fake loyalty cannot withstand the frequency of absolute truth. When the heavy hand of your protection begins to sweep through your environment, one of the first things it targets is the foundation of their toxic alliances. They are terrified of being alone because isolation forces them to confront their own emptiness. So they cling to their group, relying on a script that equates crowd size with being right. But when the heat of divine justice is applied, their fragile bonds melt instantly. The unseen forces protecting you do not just block the incoming arrows. They actively confuse the enemy camp so thoroughly that the attackers end up destroying themselves from the inside out. They behave exactly like a swarm of panicked rats abandoning a sinking ship they themselves drilled holes into, biting and clawing at each other in a desperate bid for survival. It is an incredibly goofy and pathetic spectacle to witness. The ringleader who thought they had a loyal army suddenly finds themselves completely isolated, betrayed by the very minions they used to attack you. The people they gathered to gang up on you begin turning on each other, exposing each other's secrets in a frantic attempt to save their own skin. You simply sit back and watch as their carefully constructed social empire crumbles into dust. You remain in unbothered isolation, proving once and for all that one person standing fiercely in absolute truth is a permanent, unstoppable majority. Number 9. The agonizing psychological suffocation they experience when their traps structurally morph into the exact pits they fall into. The karmic boomerang is one of the most ruthless forms of divine protection, and it is actively working on your behalf right now. People who operate in the shadows, fueled by malice and insecurity, spend an inordinate amount of time laying meticulous traps. They orchestrate scenarios designed to make you look incompetent. They bait you into arguments to make you look unstable, and they systematically try to sever your connections. They consider themselves master manipulators, playing a game of psychological chess. But you walk in alignment, which means your steps are divinely ordered. You possess an internal architecture of profound intuition that effortlessly guides you around their snares. Psychologically, the toxic person is banking entirely on your predictability. They assume you operate from the same reactive, fear-based mentality they do. They need you to fall into the trap so they can feel a fleeting sense of intellectual superiority. Their ego relies on the belief that they can outsmart the natural laws of consequence. When you effortlessly glide past their meticulously laid trap, completely unharmed and unbothered, their brain cannot compute the failure. They are terrified of their own incompetence. In their frantic desperation to see the trap work, they end up stumbling forward and falling directly into it themselves. It is the ultimate manifestation of poetic justice, orchestrated by a universe that refuses to let you be mocked. This dynamic is exactly like Wile-E. Coyote meticulously painting a fake tunnel on a solid rock wall to trick the Roadrunner, only to watch the Roadrunner speed effortlessly right through it, while the coyote runs headfirst into solid stone. It is goofy, it is embarrassing, and it is a brutal reminder that the universe does not just protect you from their weapons, it actively turns their weapons backward. The lie they told to ruin your reputation ends up being the exact lie that gets them fired. The wedge they tried to drive between you and a loved one results in them being permanently cut off. They are currently wearing the exact heavy chains they spent months forging for your wrists, suffocating under the weight of their own spectacularly failed malice. Number 10. You trigger a profound ego death by forcing them to fight a ghost they can never punch back. Toxic individuals are highly accustomed to petty revenge, dramatic confrontations, and endless cycles of retaliation. They actually crave your anger because it validates their victimhood and provides them with the external emotional stimulation they desperately need to feel alive. If you were to yell at them, stoop to their level, or actively try to ruin their lives, they would know exactly how to handle it. They have memorized the script for chaotic warfare. But your spiritual protection requires you to step completely off the battlefield. You have removed your energy, your attention, and your physical presence from their low vibrational frequency. You operate in a state of sovereign detachment. Deep down, they are deeply unsettled by the fact that they cannot process unilateral defeat without an active physical opponent. Their fragile ego demands that you care enough about them to fight back. Instead, they are left shadowboxing in an empty ring until the building itself starts collapsing on top of them. When the divine retribution begins to hit them, when their plans mysteriously fail, when their hidden sins are exposed, when their mental health rapidly plummets, they furiously look around for you, expecting to see you holding the weapon. But you are nowhere to be found. This creates a haunting, terrifying paranoia in their minds. They keep waiting for your clapback, but all they get is the heavy, undeniable hand of spiritual justice pressing down on their lives. It makes them look incredibly frantic and completely unhinged from the outside. They will start throwing subliminal shots on social media, desperately trying to bait you back into the ring, but you simply do not engage. The tragedy here is that their punishment is entirely self-inflicted by their refusal to leave you alone. They are slowly being crushed by the weight of a war they started against a universe that has firmly decided they are not allowed to win. They are wildly swinging at the air, exhausting their finite energy reserves, completely unable to comprehend that they are being systematically dismantled by an invisible architecture of grace they do not have the clearance to perceive. Number 11. The terrifying realization that your consistency destroys their delusional narrative that your success is merely temporary. Haters and imitators rely heavily on the coping mechanism of absolute delusion. When you first started elevating, healing, glowing, and stepping fully into your authentic power, they consoled their fragile egos by whispering that it was just a phase. They desperately told themselves, and anyone who would listen, that you were just getting lucky, that your success was a fluke, and that inevitably you would crash and burn. They need to believe your elevation is temporary to validate their secret, deeply held belief that they are inherently better than you. But your internal architecture is too solid, and your growth is undeniable. You did not crash, you did not burn. In fact, you doubled down. You kept stacking your quiet victories, expanding your knowledge, and fortifying your internal peace. Your growth is not loud or flashy. It is a slow, undeniable tectonic shift. Psychologically, your relentless consistency is a massive wrecking ball to their fragile worldview. If your success is real, hard-earned and permanent, then their stagnation is also real, completely self-inflicted, and entirely their own fault. They cannot handle this massive level of accountability. It forces them to look in the mirror and realize they have wasted years performing for a shallow crowd, while you spent years diligently building a permanent empire in the dark. Think of it like a person living in a flimsy plastic tent on the beach, constantly mocking the person next door who is spending months painstakingly digging a deep foundation into the bedrock. The person in the tent laughs, claiming the builder is wasting their time. But then the hurricane comes. The tent is instantly obliterated, washed out to sea in a matter of seconds, while the stone fortress stands entirely unmoved. Your consistency is that immovable stone fortress. When the storms of life hit, they expected you to fall apart just like they do. Instead, you weathered the storm effortlessly, and they are left completely exposed, drenched, and shivering. The universe puts hands on them by forcing them to survive long enough to witness everything they doubted about you become an undeniable, indestructible reality. Number 12. The environment naturally recognizes your authentic alignment and physically expels their toxicity like a healthy body rejecting a virus. Have you noticed how the trash seems to be taking itself out lately? People you did not even know were secretly competing with you or harboring intense ill will against you are suddenly moving out of your life, getting caught in their own lies, or making catastrophic mistakes that permanently sever their access to you. You did not have to plot against them. You did not have to execute a master plan to remove them. The contrast is profound. You sit in a high vibrational state of abundance and creation, while they operate on a low vibrational frequency of lack, competition, and deception. The deep psychological truth is that toxic people cannot breathe in high vibrational air. It makes them intensely sick, it makes them deeply paranoid, and it makes them profoundly uncomfortable. They are terrified of being exposed by the raw light you carry. When you committed to your spiritual growth, you upgraded your internal architecture, and consequently, the energetic environment around you upgraded as well. Because they rely on a script of manipulation that only works in the dark, the brilliant illumination of your truth forces them into a state of panic. They either flee voluntarily or they self-destruct in a manner that forces their immediate removal from your timeline. It is the exact biological equivalent of a strong, thriving immune system detecting a foreign, malicious pathogen. The body does not negotiate with the virus. It does not try to understand the virus's feelings. It spikes a fever, attacks the invader, and violently flushes it from the system. You are the healthy, sovereign organism, and the universe is your uncompromising immune response. These performative individuals look incredibly frantic as they are pushed to the absolute fringes of your life. They desperately try to cling to your circle, attempting to manipulate mutual friends or force situations to keep themselves relevant. But the environment simply will not hold them anymore. They are unceremoniously expelled, left shivering in the cold reality that their own toxicity has evicted them from the warmth of your presence permanently. Number 13. You represent the unshakable architecture of truth, and your unseen protectors are its foundational, unyielding pillars. In a world governed by superficial metrics, illusions, and constant performative posturing, absolute truth is the ultimate threat. Your hater has built their entire existence on a fragile foundation of lies. They lie to themselves about their self-worth, they lie to the world about their happiness, and they lie to everyone about their malicious intentions. They view reality as something that can be negotiated, bent, and manipulated through clever deception. When they encounter you, they are encountering a walking, breathing manifestation of undeniable, objective truth. You do not negotiate with illusions. You do not lower your frequency to make their comfortable lies feel acceptable. Because you are deeply aligned with truth, the forces that protect you are the absolute foundational pillars of reality itself. Psychologically, their hatred is driven by an intense, consuming fear of reality. When they attempt to attack you, they are not just fighting a human being. They are trying to punch a hole through the very fabric of truth. They are desperately trying to forcefully bend reality to fit their delusional, victim-centered narrative. But truth does not bend. It violently breaks those who oppose it. They rely on a script that says, perception is reality, but your existence proves that reality is reality, and no amount of fake perception can alter it. The heavy, protective hands that step in to defend you are simply the natural laws of the universe violently snapping back into their rightful place. The hater's fragile card-house existence is instantly crushed under the sheer, unyielding weight of the reality they tried so desperately to deny. It is a profoundly tragic spectacle, watching someone exhaust their entire life force trying to aggressively argue with gravity, only to be entirely flattened by the very force they swore did not exist. They are exhausted, broken, and humiliated, forced to realize that their entire war was based on a delusion, and the universe has finally arrived to collect the debt of their deception. Number 14. The crushing, final surrender to the undeniable truth that your energy is guarded by a jurisdiction they cannot ever enter. Every malicious campaign against a chosen one eventually reaches its terminal velocity. The toxic competitor will exhaust every single performative trick in their extensive playbook. They will try isolation, they will try smear campaigns, they will try mimicry, they will try provocation, and they will try direct intimidation. And at every single turn, they will be violently rebuffed by the overwhelming heavy hands of your spiritual and earthly protectors. Finally, they reach the absolute end of their energetic reserves. They hit the massive wall of pure, unadulterated exhaustion, and in that moment of profound defeat, the ultimate realization crushes whatever is left of their fragile ego. They realize that you exist in an energetic jurisdiction that they simply do not have the clearance to enter. Your peace, your alignment, and your protection are not things they can manipulate, purchase, or destroy. They belong to a higher spiritual court. Psychologically, this final phase is characterized by a complete collapse of their false self. They are forced to drop their weapons, not out of sudden moral clarity or genuine repentance, but out of absolute bone-deep terror and utter exhaustion. They must finally accept that they are fighting an unwinnable war against an unseen army that does not sleep, does not negotiate, and does not ever lose. They are stripped of their script, left without a role to play. They are left entirely hollow, realizing they sacrificed their own sanity, destroyed their own reputation, and ruined their own lives, all to slightly inconvenience a person who is actively being escorted to their highest destiny by the universe itself. This final surrender is the ultimate testament to the impenetrable nature of your authentic power. They look like deeply tragic figures, sitting in the smoldering ruins of their own malicious plans, staring up at the impenetrable fortress of your peace. The heavy hands of consequence have firmly pinned them to the ground, ensuring they can never again raise a weapon against the anointed. They wanted to see you break, but they were forced to endure the agonizing reality of their own complete and total shattering. When you zoom out and look at the magnificent, terrifying architecture of all of this, one profound truth becomes entirely impossible to ignore. The battle was never truly yours to begin with. The people who tried to destroy you, the ones who performed, manipulated, and obsessively plotted your downfall, were never actually targeting your physical actions or your worldly possessions. They were targeting your energetic alignment, your unshakable peace, and your divine favor. They were desperately trying to steal a light they did not have the discipline, the resilience, or the courage to cultivate within themselves. But they profoundly misunderstood the uncompromising rules of spiritual engagement. They completely forgot that when you step into the arena with a chosen one, You are not just fighting a solitary human being. You are declaring war on the entire spiritual lineage and the massive universal force that meticulously crafted them in the dark. You do not need to prove anything to these people. You do not need to engage in their frantic, low-vibrational performances. You do not need to seek revenge, drop down into the mud to their level, or compromise a single ounce of your hard-earned authenticity to validate their deeply fragile egos. The universe has already deployed its heavy hands on your behalf. Your only job is to remain fiercely anchored in your truth, to keep quietly stacking your bricks on solid ground, and to continue walking forward with the absolute certainty that your back is covered by forces they cannot even comprehend. Let them deal with the catastrophic consequences of their own malicious ignorance. Let them choke on the reality they desperately tried to create for you. You just keep ascending. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share the video with someone who needs the reminder. Stay chosen, stay blessed.